Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Adam Moskowitz, and this is another edition of the Maker to Monger Cellar Sessions presented by Columbia Cheese. We are very excited to have with us today Frederic Van Tricht from Belgium, representing Kaasaffineurs Van Tricht. Frederic, please introduce yourself.
It's nice to be here tonight, guys. I'm Frederic. I'm the third generation cheese refiner, and we've been working some years together with Columbia Cheese, who's taking care of our OG Kristal cheese, which is getting more and more popular now. It's a cheese that I personally love. It's like very savory, nice texture, but I'm very happy to be here, and I'm ready for all your questions.
Great. Let's start with an easy one. What the hell's a refiner? We don't know that word here in America. Refinery sounds like something like you process gas or something. So what's a refiner?
So yeah, we call ourselves affineurs. Affineurs is a more known thing in France than it is in Belgium. So it means that we are aging cheese, that we're taking care of the cheese while the cheese is aging. So actually we try to get all the flavors out of the cheese that it has in it, to like treat it in a good way, to play with temperature, with humidity, flip the cheese, wash it when it's possible. So just try to make the cheese better than when we buy it from the producer.
You said you're third generation. So does that explain to me
That's right.
your lineage a little bit?
So actually our business started in a different way. So my grandfather started in 1970 with a cheese shop where affinage was not the most important thing. He was keeping some cheeses to make them better, but it was not the main business. So this year we celebrated, like the 1st of April, we celebrated our 50th anniversary. A little bit of pity because, you know, we had we tried to organize a big cheese party, because of the whole COVID situation, it was not possible. In anyway, so 1970, my grandparents started. Then my parents took the business over in 78, and they focused more on the aging of the cheese. So still a shop, try to bring the best of European cheeses to our clients that came into the shop. And also at that time, my father started to supply restaurants. First in Antwerp. Now today we're supplying in the whole Benelux, so Belgium, Holland, Luxembourg, a lot of restaurants. But beside of that, we also represent Belgian cheesemakers abroad.
So let's key in on that for a second. So you're a retailer first, and you still are a retailer. How many retail locations do you have?
So today we have 2 retailer locations. We have our flagship store. In any case, both of our shops are in Antwerp. Antwerp is the second biggest city of Belgium after Brussels. It's a port city, so we have the second biggest port of Europe. And so yeah, we have one shop in a small town called Belgium. It's like very close to Antwerp city, and then we opened the second shop 4 years ago in a brewery in Antwerp, where we also have our aging facility. It's called the De Koning Brewery. So we have our aging facility there. We have 9 different rooms where we age the cheese, and also a small cheese shop called Only Cheese.
So is it true that the Wall Street Journal selected you as one of the best retailers in Europe?
Yeah, that came as a surprise. So we always try to approach cheese in a different way. More than 15 years, it's approximately 15 years ago, we moved our shop from the location where my grandparents started, and we stayed in the same room, in the same street. I'm sorry. But we built a new shop, and we took like a very modern approach. So not a lot of wood, but more like marble, white marble. It's like a very I don't know how to say, but like very clean cheese shop with a little bit of wood, with no wood at all, only wood to age cheese on. So a very modern approach. And yeah, it's true that back in 2010, the Wall Street Journal called us the best cheese shop in Europe, which came as a surprise, but even still today, we're very proud of it.
Tell us a little bit about your retail philosophy and why do you think, I appreciate your humility, but why do you think the Wall Street Journal gave you such an honor?
I think the different approach, the thing is we have now more 50 years of experience in cheese. So for us, you know, we're always, as a cheese refiner, it always comes to the same point. The thing is, you know, we as cheese refiners, as cheese agers, we can have all the knowledge in the world. We can have the best aging facility in the world. But the most important thing of our job is working together with the right producers and always be very transparent about it. Because, you know, those are the guys who deserve the credits for the great cheese. So for us, you know, the selection is very important. We try to be very selectful to do with the people that we work with, and we try to present cheeses that you cannot find anywhere else in Belgium. Also, next to that, we have our proper creations. So it's not only, you know, looking for good cheeses, but we know we have a good cooperation with a producer. We ask them to make a cheese for us, and it happened already a few times. So we're really, the thing and the great thing about our job as a cheese refiner, it never stops. You always can discover new cheeses. You always, you know, in the mind, you're always thinking about, you know, what could be the next cheese. We do some tests with aging with like Japanese products. We do beer washes. We have a client with a restaurant in Brussels who's distributing a rum from the Philippines, and we do like aging in his proper rum. So those are things that we really like to do, and that's also one of the reasons that we try to be different than our colleagues. And that's I think that's what the Wall Street Journal saw when they came to our shop. It's a shop with a huge cheese selection, and you know, most of our cheeses are raw milk, all artisanal cheese. It's just, you know, trying to find different stuff.
Tell me a little bit about your selection. So outside of Belgian cheeses, what other, let's say, companies, cheese affineurs, cheese makers do you work with that we might be familiar with?
Oh yeah, it starts, a very familiar name will be Keeskuchen, Norbert, on the picture in the background. You know, it's a guy that we're working for some time with. We have the Owl Blossom, we have the Chiriboga. We also, from Switzerland, have from Conrad from Mundik, we have the Gallehacker. We work with people like Niels Yard. You know, that's a thing. And every time, you know, when you come to the Cheesemonger Invitational, when you come to Salon du Fromage, when you go to Bra in Italy, you meet the same family of cheese people, all, you know, just representing their own country with great cheeses, and that's like mind blowing. It's amazing.
What cheese from Niels Jardera do you love?
You know, I'm a Stilton guy. Stilton is, yeah, you know, maybe one of my favorite blue cheeses. I like the Colston Bassett with their Niels Jardera recipe with animal rennet. It's super creamy. It's super nice. That's what I really like. I like their cheddars a lot.
What's cheddar? What cheddar do you love?
You know, to be honest, I love Montgomery. That's maybe one of my favorites, although that the cheddar from Keynes is more easy selling in Belgium than the Montgomery. But my personal opinion, I love Montgomery.
Yeah, I mean, I not only love Montgomery, I have like a man crush on Jamie Montgomery. That guy is really like super sexy in a cheese way. Let's talk about selling, for example, for a second. One of the things that I love most when I visited your retail location is I witnessed a strategy I've never seen before. You want to talk a little bit about how you set up your case and how different that is versus other cheese retailers?
You know, I think Niels Yard is still one of the examples of like an amazing retail shop, and I'm sure that it inspires a lot of people. For us, it's a little bit different in a way that, you know, we have a larger selection. I think in general we have like maybe 200 cheeses in our case. When I'm talking about our flagship store in the Fruit of Laan, where my mom is still in charge. When it comes to only cheese, that's a total different shop. It's like our shop next to our aging facility. So there we always change the cheeses because we're like literally next to our aging facility. So the selection is smaller than in our flagship store, but you know we try to change, like we change at least 10 cheeses every week. We always have the cheese of the week, which we sample a lot, make like present like big chunks in the counter, and that's what we try to do. Now,
yeah, it was a leading question, and you didn't take the bait. So let me qualify for it. What I love about your retail strategy is that a lot of shops employ what we call a coffin case, and a coffin case is an open case where the cheese is in the case, and then people can actually touch the cheese. And I've always been a little bit anti-coffin cases because in America, people think they're like a basketball player, where they'll grab a piece and then they'll lay it back into the case if they don't want the piece. It really messes up the merchandising. And what I've noticed with you guys, what you do is you have like a little barrier, like a 3 feet, like little wall. It's only like an inch wide.
That's right.
And then you have the monger area, so they have a few feet where they work, and then behind them is the open coffin case. So you're actually merchandising in a coffin case, but don't let the consumer touch in the case. Can you help me understand where that came from? Because I think it's freaking brilliant.
Thanks, July. It's when we moved our new shop 15 years ago. Before we had like the regular cheese counter with glass. You know, people couldn't touch the cheese, but they were like very close to the cheese. The advantage of the setup that we have today is that, you know, it's open. There's no glass between the client and the cheese. It's very transparent, but we have the barrier, and you know the monger is in between to tell more about the cheese. We always, in a certain way, try to put one cheese like on this barrier, but yeah, of course, most of the cheese is in the counter, and people are like, I don't know, maybe 1 meter away from the cheese. But yeah, it's a very open setup, and that's what we like about it. We have it in our both shops, and it works.
Whose idea was that, though? My point is, it's like you're taking like this, because you're also a very sample friendly and very knowledgeable, which I feel is like the Niels Yard approach. But like this, it's like a new school strategy. Who came up with the strategy of the monger barrier with the open coffin case? Was that something you came up with, or your dad?
It was my dad, definitely. It's my dad is always he's a very, you know, guy who's very modern and for his age. Also an incredible thing that he did with it was his idea in our new shop in the brewery. He built it like this glass bottom floor. And in the, you know, we have some aging of the cheese in the cellars. So people, they walk in our shop, they walk on this like, glass bottom floor. And they see cheese in the cellar while it's aging. It's a very small shop, but without this glass bottom floor, it would feel much smaller. Now you have the space, and people really can see that we're aging cheese in there, which makes it, yeah, a very, very different thing than most other cheese shops.
Now, talking about your aging facility, I visited your aging facility, and the way I describe it is it's like the Star Trek of affinage. It's like, you tell us a little bit about the building that it's in, and then the juxtaposition of that building versus the way you design the affinage.
Oh yeah, it's totally different. So the story, it's a long story, but I'll try to make it as short as possible. So we were looking for a new aging facility. We were looking for a bigger place where we could age cheese, because before we went to this new facility, we were aging the cheese in a glass aging cave in our shop. So our shop is still there, but all our wholesale moved to this brewery. So as we live in Belgium, we're like huge. I'm a big fan of beers, so is my dad, and we've been playing since many years with the pairings between cheese and beer. So from this passion for cheese and beer, my dad met a beer sommelier, and they brought their knowledge together, and they made 2 books about cheese and beer pairings. The beer experts is called Ben Vinken, my dad Van Tricht. So the books are Vinken and Van Tricht bringing their knowledge together. So because of those books, my dad got to know a lot of people in the brewing industry, and also people from Duvel Moortgat. Duvel is one of the more famous Belgian specialty beer brewers. So one day we were looking for an aging facility, but we couldn't find anything that was right. And the people from Duvel Moortgat that we knew, they were very enthusiastic about the pairings between the cheese, our cheeses and their beers. So somebody from the board retired, and they asked us to host like a beer and cheese tasting for this guy, to thank him for the work he did in the past. And so I went there with my wife, Veerle, who's also in the company, and we hosted this cheese and beer night in Brussels on the market. After the tasting, I was drinking a Duvel together with Michel Moortgat, the owner of Duvel Moortgat. And we were talking about about life. And he told me, Frederic, how's business? How is everything developing? I said, listen, Michel, his name is also Michel, like my dad. I said, Michel, we can't complain. We're passionate about our job. And actually, we're looking for a new space to age our cheese. And he told me that night, Frederic, I might have something interesting for you. We made an appointment, and 2 weeks later we came into the Koning brewery, which they bought like 1 year before we spoke about it, and he showed us the former bottling plant, which was not in use anymore. They didn't use it anymore. So it was not empty. There was this old machinery. It's a very old building, but like literally in the city of Antwerp. And he said, Frederic, this might be a nice place to age your cheese. We're like, oh wow, this is a fantastic building. The Koning is very known in Antwerp. It could be a good thing to age our cheese in here. And so we came to an agreement. So really, really nice. And then Duvel was like, maybe, it's good to have a different craftsman. We brew beer here, but now there's this cheese guy, this cheese refiner who is aging the cheese in there. And he said, and it worked. So he said, maybe we could attract other crafts. So today there's a chocolatier, a very good chocolatier, a young guy who's making fantastic chocolates. There's a butcher, there's a bakery, there's a Michelin star restaurant, there's like a Low and Slow barbecue restaurant. So there's a lot of stuff happening there. So if anybody wants to come to Belgium, it's definitely worth a visit. So we are there since 2012. We built 9 different caves, all with different temperatures, different humidity, and we still have the same approach as in our shop. So we want it to be modern, and we want it to be very practical. So we sat together with our staff from the beginning when we know that we were moving. We said, listen guys, we're gonna do this new project, give us input, how can we make it as sufficient as possible. We're still there, very happy how it works.
So you do 9 different caves. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're aging? And you also referenced earlier some special cheese. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you're aging and what type of special cheeses you're doing?
We have the 9 caves. So we have one cave with, we divided it into different cheese types. One with white molds. We have the geotrichum rinds. We have the semi-hard. We have hard cheeses, where we make also a difference between Alpine styles or more Parmigiano styles. We have a different room for blue cheeses. So we age cheese from all over Europe. We even import some from time to time some cheeses from the US. Like for example, we had the cheeses from Jasper Hill. We have had the Pleasant Ridge for like a restaurant's clients who want to really have something else. But aside of that, we more and more focus on the Belgian cheeses. Belgium. When it comes to Belgian cheese, it's the thing is, we're a very small country. We don't have the reputation of being a cheese country, although we have like an amazing variety in cheeses. We have cheese makers who make beautiful white molds. We have goat milk cheeses, sheep milk cheeses, all like from blue to semi-hard, hard, all types of cheese. And it's also something that we like to make like the cheese producers or the farmers that we work together with, to give them like inspiration to make new cheeses, because and that's also one of the tasks of a cheese refiner. It's not just aging the cheese. It's not only looking for good cheeses, but it's also inspiring your producers, because you're the middleman between the people, the consumer, the market, and the cheese makers. So it's super important to give feedback to the cheese producer, but also explain a little bit more about the idea of the cheese producer to the consumer. So that's also something that we do. And like when it comes to creating cheese, we have made cheese with duvel, for example, where we have some beer cheeses in Belgium, but like in most of the cases, they only wash the outside of the cheese. We ask the producer to use the beer as an ingredient, where you have like really a beer flavor in the cheese. We have, for example, this new cheese called, or it's not brand new, but we have our own beer called Rex. It's a beer that we designed to pair with cheese. It's a blonde beer, high fermentation, dry hop. And the idea was to create a beer that pairs with different cheese types, that is elegant enough to pair next to fresh goat cheese, but also has enough body to serve it next to wash rinds and even blue cheeses. And with this beer, we also created a beer cheese, which is the drunk monk. It's like literally they wash the curd with the beer, it's soaked in the beer, so you have like a beer flavored cheese without, well balanced. It's well balanced. Those kind of things is what we love to do. Just try new stuff, and always respect the producer, but also giving like nice new inputs.
So let's talk a little bit about who we work with. So tell us a little bit about the history behind OG Kristal and Farmdale. Tell us a little bit about where it comes from. Tell us a little bit about maybe how the name was originated.
Yeah, that's a story. So it's also this producer we got to know because of a brewer. How this is a very crazy story, but one of the owner of Sint Bernardus. It's a beer that's also known in the States. It's very close to West Vleteren. It's this guy. We knew him, Hans. And one day he called us. He said, "Frederic, I know these guys, a cheese farm, and they are launching a new cheese with hop sprouts. And I know these people. I promised them to get you in touch, and you were invited on the press presentation of this hop sprout cheese." I said, "Okay." We were always nice to know people in the world of cheese. So we went there, and it was a press presentation for this cheese with hop sprouts. And we tried the cheese, and the cheese was okay, but it was not mind-blowing. But that night we met Johan and Dominique. They had this cheese farm in West Flanders, pretty small. And we sat together, we had a beer together, and they said, "Yeah, maybe, we have this cheese with hop sprouts, but we have a lot of different of other cheeses. Maybe, we could see each other. We will invite you in the dairy, and you can come and take a look." So we went there, and it's a very small dairy. We got to know these people. We tried their cheeses because Johan is a very creative cheese producer. He makes also a very big variety of different cheeses, from wash rind, hard, bloomy, whatever. And there was one cheese that really stood out for us. It was an old cheese aged for 80 months. And they named it Brokkel Oud Roeselare. So to translate it, brokkel means old cheese, crumbly cheese. Oud, old. Roeselare is the place where they are. Roeselare is a village in West Flanders. So they said, "Wow, this is amazing cheese," but the name, to be honest, doesn't sound really cool. Can we talk about it? Maybe, it could be a very interesting product for us to sell. They were like, yeah, of course, we're only selling it in the region to a few cheese shops and to a few restaurants, but, we can make a little bit more, and it would be nice if you could sell it. Yeah, okay, sure, of course. We discovered some other cheeses, but always from the beginning, this Brokkel Oud Roeselare was one of our favorites. And that's why, Adam, we brought it to you. And I remember that, after talking, we changed the name also for the sales in Belgium. We didn't call it Brokkel Oud Roeselare, but we called it Old Groendal, because Groendal, which means Green Valley, is the name of the dairy. Old because it's an old cheese. But then I remember, what did you say again, Adam, about Old Groendal?
The Grundle means something a little bit different here in the United States than what you're referencing it. I'm not going to go farther into that. I liked the name Old Grundle. Maybe Jonathan, maybe you want to chime in, because I was ready to call it Old Grundle, but Jonathan Richardson felt uncomfortable representing something called Old Grundle.
No. To be honest, Adam, we've been getting more and more people that come into cheese shops, and they're like, "I want something with a bunch of crystals." And so one thing that we had discussed, in the few months or years prior, was, why isn't there a cheese called Kristal? Because people walk into a shop and they're like, "Give me something with a bunch of crystals." So we've been kind of pushing on that idea. So when this came up, and Old Grundle was kind of like a funny name that I ran by a few people, and they were like, "Yeah, not sure about Grundle."
What is a Grundle? I don't. What's a Grundle?
I'm not sure. Not sure. I just know that they particularly said, not so much on that word. I never looked it up. I guess there's like an online slang dictionary, but I don't know how it works. So I was like, well, how about if this could be Kristal? We could call this one Kristal. And then I think it was you that said, nah, dude, OG Kristal, like old Grundle Kristal. And I was like, all right, I guess that's done.
So like I used to smoke a lot of weed.
What?
And yeah, no, I did. I used to smoke a lot of weed. And so OG Kristal, like, kind of to me sounded like a cool, like hip, like weed name. And I find the cheese to be also very addictive. And so that's the evolution of OG Kristal. And Frederic, what do you think when we came up with the name OG Kristal? What do you think?
It's a perfect name. It covers the whole thing. And I remember after when I heard the name, I called you, Adam, and I asked, would you mind if we sell it as OG Kristal also in Europe? I said, yeah, sure, please. I'll be on it. So yeah, I love the name. I love the name. We printed T-shirts. Yeah, it's a super cool name. And it just reflects the cheese because it's a unique cheese.
So let's talk a little bit more about the actual dairy. So what's the actual the cow type or the animal types they're working with, and what's the herd size? And is it in fact, and it's farmstead, right? Like they're actually milking animals?
So it changed recently. So when we met them, they had their own cows. So the thing is, they're very like traditional farmers from Flanders. This guy, his family has two kids, and he wanted to proceed. So actually, recently they got rid of the cows. They sold it to local farmers. But now they buy the milk from the local farmers where they sold their cows to. So it's all very close to the dairy. On the place where they had their stables, they built this brand new dairy, which only opened like the end of last year. It's a small but state-of-the-art dairy. I think in a certain way, it's very. I think it's a very similar story to Albert Kraus. So they invested to build this dairy to a very consistent production. They expanded the production a bit because they were like literally very, 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 very small. As soon that we picked the cheese up, they felt the demand for more cheese, but it's always going to be artisanal cheese. This guy, Johan, the cheesemaker, is super freak when it comes to milk quality. So they only buy milk from the farmers that let their animals outside during the summertime. When it comes to the cows, they're using a mix of the traditional Holstein cows, but with a mix of Swiss brown. That's what they. I think they're working for the moment now with five different farmers.
And what's the herd size? What's the herd size, and what's the production size for this cheese?
They are. So now they're expanding a bit, but as it's a cheese that needs to age for, let's say, between 16 and 20 months, for the moment we cannot buy more than 50 cheeses every 2 weeks. So it's really, really small. And in that point of view, Corona and the whole COVID situation came as a gift. It's a nasty way of telling it, but with the success that the cheese has in Europe, in Asia, but especially also in the US, we were, Colombia was creating a gap. So I saw Dominique, the wife of Johan, last week, and she said, it's not that bad that there's a little bit less of sales in Europe and in the rest of the world, because now we can fill up the gap, because otherwise we would have like no cheese, no OG Kristal for 3 or 4 months, which would be a disaster. Because also what we see on our cheese shops, when people walk in and there's like no OG Kristal on the counter, they get mad, like, oh no, because there's not really an alternative.
Yeah, so give me some, what is it about, if we were like in front of a customer, how would you describe OG Kristal? What is it? Pitch us on the cheese a little bit.
So I remember the words of a food scientist. I forget his name now. And he told me, Frederic, this cheese is the most umami cheese that I ever had in my life. It's sweet, it's savory, it's creamy. You have this mouthfeel. The thing is, when you put it in your mouth, you will see that the paste is super creamy for the age of the cheese. So it will melt, and you will end up with these aged crystals on your tongue, between your teeth. And that's what makes it unique. I also see it in the warehouse when we're picking orders. OG Kristal is one of the cheeses where I always see my guys like cutting a small piece for themselves and put them in their mouth. So it's has this like butterscotch caramel flavor. It's very easy eating. It's very nice to cook with as well. We have a lot of chefs who make like creams, or just use it instead of a Parmigiano to top it on, for example, like carpaccio, which makes it a very easy eating but complex cheese.
Love it. So you mentioned the word beer a lot in today's session. Tell us about your relationship with beer. You like beer?
I love beer. I'm having one right now. I think, of course, I'm from Belgium. We have a very traditional beer culture, and of course, I like wine. I like different kinds of drinks. But the thing is with beer, and that's also something that we really focused on the last 10, 15 years, is that we really believe that cheese and beer are two products that can bring each other to a higher level. When I've been invited all over the world to talk about cheese and beer pairings, and the thing is, and what I really like, we have, I don't know how it is in the States, but here in Belgium, a lot of guys are the beer drinkers, and ladies sometimes say, no, give me a glass of champagne or cava or prosecco or a glass of white wine, whatever. But the thing is, when I'm doing cheese and beer tasting, that you really can convince people that the combination works. Why? Because there's the tradition, the history. When you see the monks, they were brewing beer and they were making cheese. But the more important things are that's the flavor. So in the beer, you have a very wide, selection of flavors. You have sour beers like Gueuse, for example, Oude Gueuse. You have bitter beers, the IPAs. You have sweet beers, the fruit beers. The only thing that you will almost never find in beer is saltiness. Saltiness is a very present taste in cheese. So you can play with combinations. So you can work on contrasting flavors. Like, for example, you take a fruit beer, like an Old Creek, a cherry beer, which is sour and sweet, and you pair it with a blue cheese, which is salty and bitter. So you bring the four basic tastes together in this combination, and it just works. Or you can work on more the same flavors, where you have a bitter beer, like, for example, a dark beer with a lot of malty, bitter flavors, and pair it with a blue cheese. The thing is that finding the right you can always find the right combination between the cheese and the beer.
Tell us more combos, bro. You sound real fun. You sound real sexy right now. Give us some more of these combos you like to roll with.
So for me, the school example of cheese and beer is Duvel. Duvel is a beer, blonde beer, 8.5% in alcohol. It's super sparkling. There's a lot of carbon dioxide. So when you drink it, there's a lot of happening on your tongue because of the bubbles. So it's sour and bitter because it's also quite hopped. And when you pair this, for example, with Comté or even an OG Kristal, you have the fruitiness and the saltiness. So bitterness in the beer, sourness in the beer, fruitiness and saltiness in the cheese. And you know, when you bring this two together, it's just like you get this third amazing flavor.
Very cool. So somebody once told me that beer is a better partner to cheese than wine because beer comes from the earth, comes from the ground, and cheese comes from the ground versus wine, which comes from the vine. And that's why with wine, you need bread because bread is the bridge between the ground and the vine versus beer having that already innately inside. Does that resonate with you? Is that something that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's definitely makes sense. Also, a different thing is the carbon dioxide. You know, cheese is a
what was that word you used, bro? Carbonic?
Carbon dioxide, the bubbles in the beer.
Love it.
So when you eat cheese, the cheese, because of the cream in the cheese, it will cover your tongue with this layer of cream, the creaminess. And when you have beer next to it, the bubbles in the beer, when you drink the beer, the bubbles will attack your tongue and it will break this layer of cream. It will break it open. So you have much better these two combinations, two flavors of the cheese and the beer, which makes it also work. Also, digestion-wise, you know, beer will make after a meal, when you have a meal and you end with cheese, together with a glass of beer, it will make your digestion work better. It just makes sense.
Fascinating stuff. You sound like really smart. It's really refreshing to see that you wear glasses and then actually look like somebody that should be wearing glasses.
You want to take them off, Adam?
No. So let's talk a little bit about, so if I understand correctly, you work with your wife, your mom, and your dad. Tell us a little bit about what that's like, and tell us a little bit about your dad, because I feel like you're deeply inspired by your father, so it'd be nice to hear you riff on him a little bit.
Oh yeah. Definitely, it's because a big part because of my dad that I have this same passion for cheese. Working. Sometimes I hear that people tell me working with your dad, it's with your parents, it's not easy with the whole family in one business. And the thing is, I don't have any bad experience with that because. I started really young. I did cooking school, so I left school when I was 19, and then I started straight away working in my parents' company. So I was only 19 years old. I've been there almost for 20 years now. But I started very from the base. I was a young guy and with no experience, but my dad always from the beginning took me to the producers. We did with the van. We went to France. We went to Spain to see producers, and he always those visits inspired me, and he loved to show me, and he was never he was. From the beginning, he knew that he wanted to share the passion with me, but also give me the chance to build myself in the company. Started from zero, and now today my dad is still in the company. He's semi-retired, but I'm now in charge of the company, and he still loves to help me. My mom, I don't work that close together with my mom because she's in the shop, and the shop, the flagship store is only 15 minutes away from our aging facility, and I have her on the phone maybe once or twice per day, but we're not working very, very close together, which we did before we moved. 10 years ago, I was also working together with my mom. But it's pretty cool, and I'm very thankful for my dad. My dad is a guy who worked a lot, and he got a lot of respect from the people in the restaurant scene, from the clients. People, see him as like, definitely the reference of the Belgian cheese refiners. But it's a nice cooperation. My wife used to be a teacher. When I met her, she was teaching guys from, I don't know, 17, 18 years old. She was doing teaching economics. And in the beginning, she helped in the weekends, and then she started teaching part-time and working part-time in our company. Now, today, she's very good when it comes to paperwork. So, and I'm not at all. So it's nice to work together with her, because the things where I'm good in, she's maybe a little bit less, and the things where I really suck in, she takes care of it. So I'm happy.
I hear a lot of humility, and I hear a lot of respect. I love that. Do you, to others that might be watching that work with their family, what kind of advice would you give them as to the secret of success for working with a family?
Of course, it's a very easy answer, but respect. And the thing is, where I'm very thankful for, is that my dad always respected my opinion. Even if he knew from the start that it was a bad decision, he just, respected it, and he let me do my thing. And then, I found out that it was not the right decision. So he gave me the room to develop myself in the company. And that's something that I realize, and I didn't realize it from the start, but now today I realize it. And it's super important, because, if you want to hold all the responsibility as the father, and you don't want to give any responsibility to the next generation because you think that they won't make the right choices, it will never work. Even if you know that maybe your son is not making the right choice, give him the room to let him make mistakes. At the other hand, it's also something, I respect my dad a lot for what he did. And when, I still today, even I'm in charge of the company, I always call him when I have a question. I said, Dad, what do you think about it? And it's just, about respecting each other, listening to each other, but also give the room to make mistakes.
Yeah, that sounds like something that actually is even bigger than just family dynamics. That sounds like strong management strategy. You gotta let the people rise. You gotta give them a chance to make mistakes. You gotta help them learn from the mistakes they make. I think that's really cool. What was your first, tell me about your first cheese memory? You've been in cheese now for about 20 years. It seems like it's the thing you've worked on professionally exclusively for your life. What drew you to cheese? What's your first cheese memory? Tell us how you fell in love with cheese.
To be honest, I fell in love with cheese when I was 13, 14 years old, maybe 15. So before that time, I was not I would not say another big cheese fan, but I was not, for me, my cheese career went from zero to everything. So there was a time that I didn't like cheese at all when I was young. Still today, my son, same story. And then, from one point, I like cheese and I love them all. What's my first cheese memory? I think, when I was young, my dad, my parents and I, we went on holidays to France. My parents love food and wine and beer. So I remember the times when we went to France, when after dinner the cheese trolley came, and you could choose out of this massive selection of cheeses. And that's something which I always will remember.
Nice. So which cheese? Give me the first, like for me, I remember Gruyere, and I put little pieces of Gruyere on my bagel, and I was amazed by how Gruyere smelled like feet but tasted delicious, and that was like my aha moment. So that cheese cart comes, you're in France. What'd you go for, bro?
Brie de Meaux. Brie de Meaux was my first cheese love. And still today, it's a cheese that, a good Brie de Meaux, raw milk from the Donge, nice thick paste, thin rind. It's still a cheese, when you smell it, when you open the paper wrap, the aromas, when you cut it, it's super, super nice. It's cheese that, it's always time for a nice Brie de Meaux. I love it.
Did you actually eat the Brie de Meaux with the rind on it? Like my wife.
Sure.
You did. So you weren't afraid of the rind from the get-go?
No,
Nice.
no. It took me a while. I was not eating cheese when I was 8 years old, but from the moment I had cheese, I went all the way.
My wife's going to kill me, but she's not going to watch this. My wife calls it the diaper, and she won't eat it. How would you describe Brie de Meaux?
It's super, like the mushroomy flavor, the aromas. It's nice, the saltiness, the creaminess, the when you put it melts in your mouth and you have like this full flavor. Subscribe it. It's just everything comes together.
I love it. Doug, we have any questions from Facebook?
No, we got a quiet crowd today so far. I haven't seen any come through. And if anyone here on the Zoom has questions, feel free to throw them out now.
I don't know. Johnny, you have any questions? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I had a question about, we just started bringing in these farm dolls. Really good timing. I think it was like the start of March. It was a good time to launch a new program. But, as it is, it was part of the reason that we were looking at them was as kind of like theoretically a stopgap because of the OG Kristal shortage. But what we found is that the aged farm doll is a very different cheese. It's likable for different reasons. I was wondering if you could just, I know you and I talked about it a little bit, but what is the basis, is OG Kristal just an older farm doll? Or isn't there like some sort of culture difference or like recipe? Like, what's the deal with the difference?
So that's a very good question because actually farm doll and OG Kristals are two different cheeses, and that's also a story I didn't tell yet. But OG Kristal is discovered by accident. As I mentioned before, Johan is a very passionate cheesemaker, and he always loves to try new stuff. So a few years before we met him for the first time, he was making, so the most of the sales of his cheese was on their small shop in the dairy, and he was making Gouda, but he did something wrong, or he tried something different. And so he made a batch of cheese, and he found out that after 2-3 months of aging, when it was ready to sell as young cheese, it was not nice. The texture was rubbery, so they decided not to sell it. But they were like too greedy to throw it away, so they were like, we'll have it with the family. But it was a whole batch of cheese, so it took them a while to finish the batch of cheese. And so after more than 1 year, Johan saw that the cheese with the bad cheese started to develop in a very interesting way. It started to develop nice big crystals, but together with this creamy paste, which is typical for the OG Kristal. So luckily he writes everything down when he tries something new. So now today he uses this wrong, bad recipe to make the OG Kristal. Instead, for the young farm doll and the farm doll, younger cheeses, that's a more classic recipe. But OG is different recipe, different texture. And to be honest, until today, he doesn't want to tell us what's the secrets behind OG Kristal.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
No, yeah, it's right. But even with these other cheeses, like with the Farmdal, which is also Gouda type, aging profile, 4 to 6 months, it's super creamy, and definitely you recognize the sweet caramel flavor that you also can find in the OG Kristal, in the Farmdal. Super creamy. It's a really nice cheese as well, and it's you know. It's different than the other Goudas on the market, for sure.
We also haven't talked anything about Cabriolet. Who can you tell us, because they sounded like, you know, initially when we met and we were talking about cheesemakers, they really kind of clicked into the thing that Adam and I think over time have really kind of sought out, which are young people kind of bursting into the cheese world, not necessarily beholden to like all these old school ideas, that are willing to kind of like just start something new. Who are these guys?
So actually they started as a bunch of friends. They were going to university in Ghent, and their passion was making cheese. So they had an agreement with the nuns the nuns in Ghent, and they could use a room in their monastery to make cheese 1 day per week, and then they sold it on the market to get a little bit of beer money. These bunch of friends, I think they were 4 or 5. They started when they finished studies. They started this cooperative. And they started transforming mainly, at that time, only cow's milk cheese. And they were one of the first to make a Belgian blue cheese called Pas de Bleu. Then they had this like more traditional washed rind, semi-hard cheese called Pas de Rouge. So after some years, they also started to transform goat's milk. Also, what I forgot to say is that we're one of the first Belgian organic cheese makers. So they transformed only organic milk, or they only made organic cheeses. And so they made, after some years, they made this goat version of the Pas de Rouge. It's, again, one of the most traditional Belgian cheese styles, Abbey style, semi-hard, lean and swash or red smear, but it's a very, very easy eating goat cheese. It's one of the goat cheeses that I would present to people who don't like goat cheese, because it's super easy eating. So it's a nice cheese, 4 pounds, washed rind, it keeps very well.
Yeah,
it's very It's a nice cheese.
That cheese is a hit. Anybody who doesn't like goat cheese, that's a great cheese to try. And if you do like goat cheese, it's also a great cheese to try. It's just so friendly. I love that cheese.
And you have to use it as a raclette as well. If you want the goat raclette with the cabriolet, it's fucking delicious.
Oh, I've never done that. That sounds great.
What beer would you pair with cabriolet?
Blonde beer, like Omer. It's a Duvel style. Duvel goes well. Also, it pairs very well with our Rex beer. Actually, so blonde beer. I would not put it. Not like a triple, but just, a nice, slightly hopped blonde beer. Like Duvel, Rex, yeah.
2 more questions, and I'm going to wrap this up. Question number 1, what do you think about the U.S. cheese scene from what you've experienced thus far? And what's your favorite part of the job?
So, I've been visiting Cheesemonger Invitational for quite a few years. I think when we first met, Adam, I think it might be 7 years ago, easy. I love the cheese scene in the US because it's very different to the ones that we have, to the one that we have in Europe. Here it's very traditional. You know, I like how Americans are passionate about cheese and are proud of what they sell. Of course, we have the same thing, the passion people here in Europe, but they're like more traditional, less wild for sure. You know, the thing is, when you come, I always want to bring European cheeses to the Cheesemonger Invitational, because that's a thing where, you know, it's the American version of Bra, where Bra is a cheese feast in Italy. CMI is the same thing, but it's just, you know, younger and wilder, and that's what I like about it. Also, how the cheese scene is developing when it comes to American cheeses. You guys are doing great. I've tried some really interesting American cheeses the last few years. So yeah, I love the American cheese scene for sure.
What's your favorite part? What's your favorite part about the job of being in cheese?
You know, meeting interesting people, and you know, the thing is that we all share the same passion, and a lot of people in our business, you know, they love what they do, but they don't take themselves too serious, and I think that's very important. We just are representing a real product, which is traditional, which is a history, but it's also super important. It's nutrition. So if you, it's yeah, that's what I like about it.
Speaking about what you like, so tell us some of your favorite American cheeses, why you like them, and what beers you pair with them.
I had the chance. So 4 or 5 years ago, I worked in the cellars of Jasper Hill. For 1 week. It was in January, so everybody told me I was crazy to go to Vermont in January. It was pretty cold also, but I loved it. It was very quiet. I love the Cellars, what they do. I love their team. I'm a big fan of their blue cheese, the Bailey Hazen. I've had the Winnemere. I really, you know, the last time when we were February, when we were in Salon du Fromage in Paris, I asked to bring me some Winnemere. I took some back home, and I really enjoyed that cheese. Definitely like Pleasant Ridge Reserve. I love that cheese as well. So yeah, maybe those two. What would I pair with Pleasant Ridge? A triple from Westmalle. Complex beer. I like the complexness of the Pleasant Ridge. It's fruity, it's sweet, but also, you know, with the Westmalle triple, it would be nice. And then what I really like is the Bailey Hazen Blue, together with a Kriek, Oude Kriek from Driefonteinen. You know, the sweetness, the sourness in the beer, together with the complexity of the Bailey Hazen. I think it's a match made in heaven.
Nice. I think you working with Columbia Cheese is a match made in heaven. I just want you to know how much I care about you. I think the work, the relationship that you have with your father is something I admire and respect tremendously. You guys do an impeccable job, but you don't take yourself too seriously, and I really like how you play that balance. I think your retail location is one of the coolest retail locations I've ever been in my entire life. I think your affinage is literally state of the art. Your commitment and your passion for cheese is clear and evident, and I feel frankly honored and privileged to be able to work with you. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Is there anything you'd like to close out with? Anything you want to, any last words before we close this out?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, in any case, of course, I want to thank Columbia Cheese, Adam, Jonathan, Doug, the whole team, Melissa, for, believing in our Belgian cheeses. I want to thank everybody in the United States for supporting our Belgian cheese, because, you know, for me it's a challenge. We come from a very small country where, you know, we're not known for our cheeses, but, you know, you guys, I really appreciate what you do for our cheeses, and for me, I'm really mind blown to see how OG Kristal in those few years that's on the market, how appreciated it is to see people with the T-shirts, to speak with people that are enthusiastic about their cheeses. You know, this gives me a very nice cheese spirit, and I'm really thankful for that, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart.
All right, bro. Thank you so much. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, cheese lovers around the world, this concludes another round of Maker to Monger Cellar Sessions presented by Columbia Cheese. Thank you and good night.